What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Water Cooler Talk. My name is Caleb Turner, and I'm a sports writer at KSL.com. It is Sunday, June 1st. We've made it. We are into the summer months. Memorial Day has come and gone. We took a brief hiatus there over the holiday weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed your holiday weekend, the unofficial but really official start of summer. And as such, as I've mentioned before, in recent weeks, we are into the summer sports calendar, which looks a little more bare, maybe, especially when it comes to the bigger sports here in the state of Utah. No football, no basketball. Well, there's a little basketball. NBA Finals coming up, starting on Thursday. The Jazz are not part of it, obviously. But then a couple weeks after that, you've got the NBA draft, what the Jazz will be a part of. So more on that coming soon. But as far as the actual games being played, not many for our marquee franchises here in the state. But that doesn't mean that we still can't have some fun conversations, still talk about the goings on around the state. Still exciting things happening. Still a lot to talk about. And I'm sure with your friends and coworkers, still talking about your favorite sports and some of the fun things going on locally in the wide world of sports. So, to start things out, I want to give out a couple shout outs. We are in the championship season, coming up on the end of championship season for the spring collegiate sports. And a couple of the smaller university athletic departments, specifically baseball teams, involved in some playoffs, some NCAA tournaments going on. Utah Valley, perhaps the most notable as a Division One baseball team, for the first time in their 2022 year Division One sports history, their baseball team uh, picked up a win in the NCAA tournament in the regionals against a ranked team nonetheless, number 12 Oregon. But unfortunately, ran into a couple tougher teams over the next couple days. Yesterday and today, they first fell to Arizona and then lost to Cal Poly today. So, end of the road for the Wolverines when it comes to the 2025 season. Their Cinderella underdog type run out of the WAC tournament, WAC Conference of Western Athletic, the only Division One baseball team to represent out of the state of Utah in that NCAA tournament. So shout out to the Wolverines down in Orem for putting in the work, getting a couple headlines there, making the tournament, and then winning their first ever regional tournament game. And another baseball team on a slightly lower level, but impressive nonetheless. Salt Lake Community College, the Bruins, the underdog Bruins, as they have been called in recent days, uh, overcame an early loss in their respective tournament in the JUCO World Series, and came out with an NJCAA World Series title, playing that tournament out in California, I believe. The Bruins pick up their first championship as a baseball team in that junior college JUCO World Series. So shout out to the Bruins as well. We're able to take it a couple steps further than even the Wolverines did and make it to that title game and won. So congrats to the local Bruins here in our Salt Lake County. They may be a smaller university, a community college, as it were. But they are putting on some impressive feats nonetheless. Great baseball team. We know that they've had a great soccer program there for several years. And so, we're not gonna play down to the Bruins on this show. We're gonna give them their justified hype, uh, whether that be in their Redwood campus, where I believe where most of their athletic venues are located, or wherever you attend Slick Solid Community College classes. Hope you're a proud Bruin this weekend because when it comes to baseball in the junior college level, there is no better team this year. So that's our baseball story for now. We got the bees going on, of course. I might be catching a game, hoping to catch a game maybe this week with my home state, one of my home state minor league teams in town. The Round Rock Express, which is the AAA affiliate of the Texas Rangers, um, located just north of Austin. And they'll be in town playing the Bees. So I might make my first trip out to the ballpark at America First Plaza. I've already got plenty of visits to the other America First venue, America First Field, for soccer. More on that later. And I figured maybe it's time to check out the other America First sports venue. Head down there to the Daybreak, South Jordan area, and pick up a couple ball games against the Texas squad, and we'll see what happens. And maybe grab a hot dog, right? Maybe catch some fireworks. That's what it's all about over the summer. Now that we're in June, now that we're in summer, catch a ball game, eat a dog, and catch some fireworks afterwards. So there's your little baseball minute there. Before we move on to a couple other things, I mentioned championship season. Did want to give a quick shout out to some track and field athletes. Five steeplechase athletes from Utah qualifying for the NCAA Outdoor Championships, including James Corrigan, U.S. Olympian, from BYU, and a couple other BYU Cougars as well, known for their track and field program down there. Joey Noakes, Creed Thompson, Luke Grunvig, wrapping up that group, and then Weber State, also with a representative Peter Visser, for steeplechase finals in College Station this upcoming week. So we'll see if they can bring home some more hardware for teams here in the state of Utah. I know for those of you who watched the Olympics last year, I mentioned James Corrigan. He was, represented well in steeplechase out there in France, and now gets a chance to do it at the NCAAs as well. So that's coming up decided. I thought I'd give them a shout out, and we'll have an update on whether or not they're successful in their trip out to the NCAA Outdoor Championships. And now, as I'm sure you've all been waiting for, it is time for the real professional sports games that are going on. Soccer, of course. And it's time to have a bit of a frank conversation when it comes to these soccer teams because let's be honest, the Utah Royals and Real Salt Lake are not having good seasons, not doing very well, not getting a lot of wins, which is what you want when you go to a soccer, when you go to any sporting event that you're supporting, you want to see your hometown team win, and it's just not happening. Just a handful of wins combined for these two teams. RSL, the stat that everyone's throwing around right now, they're on a winless streak. You want to be on a win streak, not a win-less streak. They have not won a game in 7 attempts. They had 7 games in the month of May, lost 4, tied 3. So that adds up to 7, right? Um, and things just not going super well. Couple, they go 2 or 3 games without even scoring a goal, and then they score a couple in one game, and then they go a couple more without scoring a goal. And that's where they're at right now. Last 2 games just have not been able to find the back of the net for Real Salt Lake. Diego Luna doing great, our star, former guest of the podcast, 8 goals on the season. No other player on RSL has more than one. And they did get one new goal, I should say, his first of MLS career for Xavier Gozo, a Utah native, I believe, born in West Valley, raised in the Eagle Mountain area. I believe that's what he says, at least when asked about it. But now spends most of his time in Harriman. Um, Went to the academy there, just graduated from high school last week. Since we didn't have a podcast last week, didn't get to give him a shout out, but that week before Memorial Day, Gozo graduating from high school and scoring his first MLS goal, all in the same weekend, Thursday to Saturday, double back-to-back kind of milestone there for him. Almost bags his second in the RSL's game against the Galaxy in LA last night, but it got blocked by the goalie. So, as of right now, still no other player with more than one goal, but they did get that new up and coming addition of Gozo, and it's looking like he can form somewhat of a consistent line up there in front for the attack, combining with Diego Luna, and somewhat ironically, maybe combining with Dominic Marchuk as well, who Gozo originally replaced in the starting lineup. Marchuk was a little injured, maybe here and there, but then Gozo was just kind of outplaying him, I think, in trainings, and essentially took that starting spot on the right wing. But now Pablo Mastroeni, the head coach, has changed up the formation a bit, has moved Gozo into a more central attacking position. And so you've got this kind of attacking forward midfield trio of Diego Luna, Xavier Gozo, and Dominic Marchuk, um, who those are also conveniently the three guys who have been called up to national teams and will be gone over the next 2 weeks as RSL is on international break. So some promise there from those three guys. Obviously, not quite getting the goals yet from Gozo and Marchuk, particularly. Luna really doing the heavy lifting there as far as the actual, score sheet production goes. But some hope there, and I think as that chemistry starts to build, hopefully you see some more production there. But that brings us to the conversation of kind of expectations, right? What should be expected from this RSL team this season? And I kind of came to this topic, if you will, because of some comments by Pablo Mastroeni, the head coach, last night in his post game press conference. He was asked specifically by a peer friend of mine, Carlos Artiles from El Show RSL, um, about whether the team and therefore the fans as well should change their objective and their expectations of what this team can and should be accomplishing. Because last year the team set a new record for best record in a regular season, the most points they've earned in a regular season. And were a top 2 to 3 seed in the Western Conference the entire season. Had an MVP candidate for a lot of the season in Chicho Arango. But that is it's just not the case anymore. That several players left, new players came in. It is a different team, and clearly based on results, we can see that it's a different team because they're not winning games like they were last year. And what the reasons for that may be. We can continue to rack our brains and continue to stay up late as I was last night, staying up late trying to figure out why isn't this team winning games like it was last year? Why isn't this team at least scoring some goals here and there, winning more than once a month or whatever it has been through this season. Um, and Pablo Mastroeni has chalked a lot of it up to youth, inexperience. Young players like Xavier Gozo, I just mentioned, just graduated from high school 2 weeks ago, 18 years old, first MLS goal. He's one of your starting attacking players, and he just doesn't have the experience that Chicho Arango had, right? As 10 years his senior. But then, you can talk about that, and certainly there are. That is a contributing factor is that there's not as much experience on this team as far as proven goal scorers. But then you can kind of flip that argument to the player that was brought in immediately after Andreas Gomez was traded away, and in kind of that period where they were looking to continue competing at that level, and that was Diogo Gonçalves from Portugal, European player in an attacking position, the number 10 attacking midfielder. Um, in his prime, quote unquote, late 20s. And you hate to bring this up, but it has to be talked about that he is their highest paid player at this point. He costs the most to bring in a transfer fee, and he's being paid the most in yearly salary. And he has 1 goal and 2 assists in 17 games. Not what you want. And so when not only do you have a pretty young team, a pretty inexperienced team, but even those couple players that you specifically brought in to bring experience, to bring proven playmaking and goal scoring, etc., assisting, whatever that might be, are also not doing it, then that's a combination for exactly what you're seeing, which is losing games, which is not scoring goals, the production, like I mentioned, not being there. I wrote down a couple of stats. Since it did cost me a little sleep, I'll read off a couple of them for you guys right now because if we want to blame it all on youth, well, let's talk about the guys that aren't young. Let's talk about 14 players on RSL that are 24 or older, which I think if you're 24, you've likely been playing professionally for multiple years, if not, 5, 6, 7 years, as most guys start when they're, 17 or 18 in soccer. So 14 guys, 25 or over. Seven goal contributions among them. So goals and assists combined, only seven from those guys. And nine of those 14, I would venture to say experienced players have zero goals or assists. And I'll cut one guy some slack. We'll bring down to eight. So Javane Brown, who's out with ACL tear, we'll cut him out. So eight guys. And out of those players, I'll list off a couple names for you. Brian Ojeda, Noel Colliscan, Lachlan Brook, also brought in around that same time as Diego Gonçalves. Philip Quinton, Brian Vera, Pablo Ruiz, Justin Glad, Johnny Russell. Justin Glad's last goal contribution was September 23rd, 2023. We are 3 months away from Justin Glad having no goals or assists in 2 years, which I mean, I know he's a defender. I get it, but he's up there on every corner kick. He's up there on every set piece, looking to head the ball in, and he's just not. And if you want to narrow it down to even just the non-defensive players, Brian Ojeda, Lachlan Brook, Pablo Ruiz, Johnny Russell, zero goals, zero assists this season. Even the guy they brought in alongside Johnny Russell from Sporting KC, William Agada, who, in my opinion, has not played very well. He has a goal, so he's off this list because these four guys, non-defensive players, 24 or older, have zero goals and zero assists. And so if the meat, the heart of your team, which is supposed to be these experienced guys in their prime, we maybe even take Johnny Russell out of that because he's 35. But Ojeda, Brook, and Ruiz in that 24 to 28 range, it's got to be better from them because if you're not getting goals from your young guys because they're too inexperienced, you're not getting goals from your experienced guys because question mark blank, I don't know what the reason is, then that's what you're going to get is you're going to get shut out, you're going to get a 7 game winless streak, and you're going to be out of the playoffs because right now RSL is 3 spots out of the playoffs, without much hope on the horizon. So, do expectations need to change? Certainly, 100%. This is not a playoff team right now. And as fans were forced to do with the Utah Jazz, change expectations, right? And unfortunately, in soccer, you don't get as great of a prize as a top five pick in a draft. You do technically you do get a better pick in the draft, but there's no Cooper Flag in the MLS draft. I'm sorry. You do every once in a while get an Emeka Anelli in an MLS draft, who, by the way, is out until at least July with what was almost a fracture in his foot, but apparently is not actually fractured. But even he was picked. He was kind of a fluke picked, in the 20s of that draft. And every once in a while, you'll get a gem that you can kind of pick up and ends up being pretty good out of that draft. But it's not anything like an NBA or NFL draft. Not, I mean, I know those aren't guaranteed, but much closer to guaranteed than the MLS draft. So it's not quite like you can, convince yourself, all right, we're in a quote tanking mode, right? We're doing this because we'll get this and we'll be better in the long run. It's not necessarily there. But I think you can say, well, we know we're not going to be good. And we know that this is a developing team. This is a young team. This is a team that's gaining experience. This is a team essentially at this point that's starting to be built around Xavier Gozo, which, there's some fun stories there. He's from Utah. His brother goes to UVU, another Wolverine shout out there. Plays for their soccer team down there. And so, you know, you shift the narrative a little bit. You find maybe some new silver linings. I get it. This team was competitive for a very long time, won an MLS Cup, but that's 16 years ago now. Have not been to a final of a competition in 12 years. So, when you start to talk about shifting expectations a little bit, maybe some fans have already done it. And And if you have, well, then kudos to you. I think um, you're doing your homework and realizing what this team is, and it can still be fun. Don't get me wrong. It's not that, obviously losing games is not fun, but you can still find some joy in guys like Xavier Gozo. Hey, his last name is even Spanish for joy. So, in his first MLS goal, in developing as a teenager into what could be, a really important player in the future, and he's from here, so maybe he, not like other guys that come in here as just a step along their path to bigger things. Maybe he'll want to stick around here. Who knows? That probably isn't the case for Diego Luna. Like I've mentioned, Paulo Mastroeni saying he'd be surprised if Diego was still here in August after that transfer window closes. So, shifting expectations a bit there. Now we can, you can kind of apply a lot of these same things. I don't want to rehash it all for the Royals, because they're also a young team, because they also have a lot of their experienced players that were brought in to contribute and produce goals are out with injury. Chloe Lacasse, perhaps, I mean, I know for a fact she's their highest paid player, tore her ACL after immediately after scoring a hat trick. So I think it's a little easier to wrap your head around when you realize, okay, these players are injured, they're not going to be there. Okay, the expectation changes because they're just not there. But when you're told, or when the players are brought in and they're not injured, and I can tell you this, Diego Gonçalves, he's been designated with a heel injury on some injury reports, but Jason Kreis went on the ESPN radio show and said he was not on this most recent trip to Austin and LA for disciplinary reasons. His training was not up to RSL standard, or his performance in training. So when it's those things, when it's a little bit less black and white, maybe it's a little tougher to understand. With the Royals, you can chalk it up to injuries. With RSL, not quite. Although, there are, Justin Glad had a concussion. So there are those things that you can kind of chalk up. But when everybody's out there, when you've got Pablo Ruiz back from an ACL tear, several months off, his rehab from an ACL tear, still not scoring goals, still not getting assists. Brian Ojeda entering what should be his prime, and two goals, 6 assists, I believe it was last year for Ojeda. We're halfway through the MLS season, and he's putting up donuts, 0-0. Um, and it's getting, you could chalk it off to early in the season, earlier in the season, but it's not early anymore. We've officially reached the midway point of the MLS season. We get a 2 week break. Take it off, enjoy, recalibrate, reset your expectations. Like I mentioned, come back June 14th, RSL facing DC United at America First Field with what should be a fun event. Nick Raimondo getting his name added to the stadium's Ring of Honor, joining the aforementioned Jason Kreis, Javier Morales, and also soon to be joined by Kyle Beckerman as well, the coach, the soccer coach down there at UVU. Really a Wolverine-centric podcast tonight, comes full circle. So things to look forward to there. The Royals back on the road this week in Louisville, where this is good news. Expected to have a couple of those injured players back. Paige Monahan, Kaylee Real. So with returning players come higher expectations, and that's how it should be. It doesn't always pan out that way, but for now, you can hope and say, hey, things can always get better. Things will get better. And for now, there are some signs that point to that for the Royals. For RSL, maybe a bit more complicated, but still things like Diego Luna, like Xavier Gozo to look forward to. And hope you guys can look forward to that, because we're getting into summer. We're getting outside. We're going to these events. We're going to sporting events, whether that be a Bees game, whether that be a RSL game, a Royals game. Hopefully we can have fun and we can pick up some wins there. And if not, grab a hot dog. If you're at RSL, grab a J Dog, personal favorite of mine. Put a little J Dog sauce on there. Enjoy that. And thanks for sticking around, guys. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.